Hello and welcome to Generation Unfiltered, a series where we sit down with athletes at every stage of their journey to talk about life, health, recovery, their passions, work, and of course, sports. I'm Nina, I'm the founder of Generation Sport, and joining us today is Nat Nicks. She's a receiver for the WNFC Mississippi Panthers and our very first guest on the series. So thank you so much, Nat, for being with us
Thanks for
today.
having me.
We'll be talking with Nat about her journey as an athlete, life outside of athletics, and the rapid rise of women's football, which I'm really excited to dig into. A little background, if you don't already know who Nat is, not only is she a receiver for the Panthers, who, by the way, won the 2024 conference championship, she's also a first lieutenant defensive cyberspace officer in the U.S. Space Force and is currently getting her master's from Florida Institute of Technology. Nat, anything I've missed here?
I think you covered it.
Okay, cool. So to get started, maybe can you tell us briefly how you got into football? You were a competitive basketball player through your childhood, if I understand that, and even going into college. What was that transition like from basketball to football?
Yeah, so I think like many the women football players I play with, we grew up playing basketball, and maybe we grew up around men, uncles, cousins, brothers that played football with us, but we knew that maybe not yet a space existed for us to play football competitively. Um, and then yeah, so played college basketball, walked away from my sport, and then had that absence. I think every athlete goes through that void of losing their sport. Thankfully, I was able to find football, and I mean, just like the physicality of it, the teamwork, like the strategy behind it, it clicked for me, and I've been in love with it since. The transition definitely isn't easy, walking away from your
Mhm.
sport into another sport, but again, like the competitiveness of an athlete, you want to be the best, right? So you're starting at ground zero and just like working your way back up in a new environment has been the most exciting part of it.
Yeah, sometimes it's exciting to kind of start fresh. You know, you've got all your learnings, I'm assuming from your time playing basketball, you kind of you took a little break and then you have a chance to approach a new sport with an entirely different mindset. Can you talk about what being a multi-sport athlete, how has that impacted the way that you play? Were there lessons learned from basketball that you could directly translate into football?
Okay, yeah, I can speak a little bit to that because basketball skills, you mean like agility, like your spacing, and then as you get a little bit older, you're learning like vision and IQ, and maybe like my specific position, I was a guard, so like learning how to run the floor and how to have like command. So that court awareness, I think, translated a bit to my field awareness, and then the conditioning. I don't think any sport conditions like basketball because you're just constant, constant. Whereas football is like a short burst, maybe like a 6 second play. Um, so like this the skills, the mental skills, and the physical skills definitely translated, but there's a lot of aspects of football that, we're 18-year-old girls at the earliest is when you can start playing. So you're just now learning those and you're an adult. So some of those transitions are a little bit harder, but ultimately, I mean, you're an athlete, right? You can anything just takes a little bit of work and elbow grease to get good at it. So
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear more about that too. When you say the women's league, you have to be 18 years old to join. I mean, the boys are starting, I don't know, at this age, like
yeah.
12, 13, 14, 15, maybe even earlier, not playing tackle, but playing flag and then starting tackle earlier than the women's are allowed to. How do you think that impacts the play and the development of the sport and the players? Do you have athletes who are actually multi-sport athletes who are coming in with a lot of just understanding of the teamwork that it takes, the way to play a field, or do you find that you're having to work, two, three times as hard and as fast to pick it up quickly?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so the league you can't start playing until 18. Um, and I had to learn myself, like women's football has existed, right? Like you do have the girls that play on the boys' team. So like I know a
Yeah.
couple players that have been playing 20 plus years and they're women. They just always played in male dominated spaces. So it has existed. But for the majority of us, yeah, it's our first time running a route or a quarterback first time learning a drop and learning how to read the field. So there's a positive and a negative of that, right? Because we're uninfluenced, right? You're starting with a clean foundation. So our coaches, specifically our head coach, he always says like they listen. Like I don't like coaching men because they don't listen, but these women like they listen, and I think that's a huge aspect, just being coachable. we're not walking into it like we already know everything. We're still, open to learn. And then I think some of the drawbacks, right? This is your first time doing it. You're not going to be great that first time maybe or that second time. It's just going to take some reps. So I think more good than harm, right? Because you talk about like the young boys that are playing 6, 7 years old. I see Pop Warner. They're getting big hits like that, and it does
Mm,
play a role in your body and in your mind. You talk about like CTE and stuff. We're delaying that process a little bit, or maybe
yeah.
not hitting as hard and a little bit more technicality, right? Like
Mm.
so, I think the game is just as, if not more, advanced on our side because we have that time to grow into it a little bit later in life.
That's really cool. So I like what you talk about with the nuances of bringing kind of a more mature perspective as you're older to the sport, having that technicality, learning it from the beginning, how to tackle with good form, and not just kind of going at it. I think is a really interesting perspective. And you also talked about, I heard a little bit of resilience in there needed, being letting go of the ego, being humble, trying to learn as quickly as possible, realizing that you're going to make mistakes and then it's going to take some time. I was also reading that you're an out of state player for the Panthers, right? So it sounds like you're on the road a lot, balancing practice and games, also balancing your full time Space Force job. And you have to do a lot of training and practice independently. Can you tell us a little bit more, like what that looks like? How do you stay motivated when you don't have your team or coaches kind of surrounding you all the time, helping to push you? What do you do to make sure you're in the right headspace to be able to practice at your best?
That's a tough one, and even like if you asked me this question 6 months ago, my answer might have been a little different. But it's
Yeah.
just it's the way my job, my career is going to move me around. So I got to be flexible and agile. And if I want to play with this team, I'll have to have like that discipline to work out of state, work independently, knowing what I my strong suits, my weak points, and getting after those. And I say my team does a great job. My coaches, I can always send a video like, hey, what looks wrong with this? What am I doing wrong here? And so they're there virtually for me, staying connected with them. But I can't lie, like it's hard. It's hard. It was a little bit easier. I haven't always played for, or I haven't always lived out of state, I'll say. I was living in Biloxi playing with this team. And then, I got shipped down to Florida, and now I'm in Florida for 4 years. And it's like, okay, I still want to play with this team. We're pretty good, right? So just having like the discipline to stay on top of myself, having that motivation, like hitting up a teammate, like, hey, I'm feeling down. I'm not really into it right now. And just sharing videos or seeing what my teammates are doing keeps me motivated and keeps me locked in, really.
No, I love that. Being able to kind of digitally be with the team and still get feedback on what you're doing in practice, and it's kind of cool if you're sending them videos, they're knowing how you're practicing, understanding how your style of play is evolving, even when you're not there. So love that you're able to kind of keep that continuity, and also it sounds like really lean on some of your teammates for when you're feeling down, even though they're far away. You can kind of always shoot them a message and still get some of that aspect of being on a team. So I know you're balancing a lot of different passions. What do you do to take care of your physical and mental well-being when you're off the field?
I'm like a huge advocate for holistic health. Like
Mm.
everything plays a role here. It's all interconnected. So sometimes when I can tell my mood is off, did I sleep 8 hours last night? Am I eating right? Did I get fast food this past weekend? I
Mm.
love wings. I can sit and eat 20 wings in one setting. Like
Yeah.
gouge maybe this weekend and do some stuff I shouldn't have done. And I feel like when I'm moving in one accord, my body, like I'm fueling right, I'm sleeping right, I'm taking care of myself mentally. So mindfulness is really big for me. I mean, I journal a lot. I live in Florida, right? The
Yeah.
sunshine is beaming on me right now, but like I'm always on the beach. I'm always like out in nature, just like grounding myself and staying mindful. I journal a lot. I don't know if a lot of people journal, but I definitely sit and write myself stories daily. And so it's like, um, well, I'm constantly doing something to pour into myself and then like realizing when I need to take a step back, right? Because we just talked about me being out of state, like it gets hard sometimes, and sometimes I'm not connecting. Sometimes I like feel disconnected from my team and I don't have that chemistry like I want to. So being able to take a step back and be like, okay, what do I need to do to reset to get my mind right so I can give my team what they need and deliver?
Yeah, I like that idea. It's kind of like putting the oxygen mask on first before you can put someone else's on. I think looking after yourself, making sure that you can show up in the way that you want to for your team, and then everything kind of flows out from there. And you can give once you've taken care of yourself and make sure that you're in a good space.
Yeah.
Have you always done these? Have you always journaled and done mindfulness, or has that been something that you've learned along the way? I think we're constantly evolving how we care for ourselves. And I know for myself as an athlete, I didn't always prioritize my mental health and I had to learn about it. Yeah, so how did you get into this stuff?
I'm smiling so hard because you're asking me like, was I a crash out? And yes, I was at one point a crash out.
Yeah.
My college teammates in college, I mentioned I went to the Air Force Academy and played basketball there. I don't know if everyone's experience in college was like mine, but I grew a hatred for my sport. I fell out of love with basketball, and that transition, losing my sport was so hard. Um, Lost a lot of like friends in the process because you're not traveling with them anymore. They're gone on weekends. It's hard to hang out. So that was like the lowest point of my life. And at the same time, like the military's beating me up, right? Academics are
Mhm.
beating me up at this academy I chose to go to. Like life was really hard as a 17-year-old. And then at the same time, I'm looking at my friends back home and they're partying, they're enjoying their college life. So I'd say like those fundamental years were like they shaped who I am today because the discipline and the motivation I had to find internally. And don't get me wrong, like I was guided by mentors and seniors all around, older friends that, poured into me, but like I had to find something in here to keep going. Because I could have easily walked away from college or walked away from my sport, which I did walk away from my sport, but like making the decision like, okay, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna finish this out, even though this sucks. Making that decision to finish out, like that sparked something in me that I think carries on to where like I don't think I'm not gonna call it indestructibility now, but like I feel like I can
Yeah.
get through hard things because I've had to do hard things.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like that of the idea of like being able to bounce back, but also bounce forward. And you said you had to walk away from your sport. I think it's so important to understand, sometimes it is the right time to walk away and, just sticking with something for the sake of sticking with it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not always the best path for us. And it's clear that you knew what are the things that I need to stick with and what is it that maybe it's time to let go of some things. And obviously it's, worked out. You found football and an entirely different pathway. And it's kind of that idea that closing a door doesn't mean that there aren't other doors that will open
Yes.
up and gives you the space to discover new things. So thank you for sharing that. I know it's really difficult to walk away from a sport and to especially be falling out of love with a sport because you want to stick with it. You put so much time and effort into it, but sometimes it's not always the right decision. And I think for a lot of women in our community, they will resonate with that. I know a lot of athletes have had to leave their sport for various reasons, whether it's, our own personal decision or if factors around you are making you feel pushed out. And I think it's a really a normal and natural thing to go to. Hopefully, we can kind of move beyond that where people don't feel pushed out of a sport ever. But I think your story will definitely resonate with a lot of people in our community.
I hope so. And you talk about, yeah, I was able to make that decision. Some people like that injury, maybe they can't bounce back from. Like, there's a lot of reasons that you may have to give up your sport, and then ultimately we all got to give it up one day, right? So just learning
Yeah.
who you are after your sport is very important.
Yeah, yeah, having something beyond and growing beyond. So then now, moving away from basketball, moving towards football, tell me a bit about your personal goals for football, like anything you're working on in particular, anything you're really excited about.
With football, yeah, I mean, I just want to keep growing as a player and a leader, and I want to continue to help raise the standard for women's football. The WNFC is a cool initiative this year. This is what football looks like. And so when you say that, like we're repainting, what we all, when I say football, you think of men playing, but we're, trying to reimagine that so young girls and just young athletes all around, like repainting, reimaging what football looks like. I was a bit
Mm.
redundant there, but when we
No.
like, and I think last year, right, we have that championship that we can hang our hats on. This year has felt so different. This year we brought in new talent, right? Even more talented athletes, and we're looking to return back to the championship game this year and walk away with it again. And that's just the confidence as a player I'm gonna come with. Um, Ultimately, leaving the game better than we found it. Like we have so much to give. Like you have your athletic abilities, but like bringing other people to the game, and then they're with flag football being huge. Like you're starting that pipeline a little younger, right? So girls are putting on, maybe not putting on pads, but they're putting on flags, and they're learning the ins and outs of football at an earlier age. So down the road, I think maybe some developmental programs or coaching. Right now, I'm still like in my athletic years, and I just want to keep winning with my team. We're having a lot of fun doing it, so just continue growing into the player that I know I'm capable of being.
That's super cool to be able to not only be growing yourself as an athlete, but also to be growing the sport in its entirety. Like, I know, with women's basketball right now, there's all this conversation around it's the WNBA, should it be the MNBA? I think there was actually like an April Fool's post put out about the NBA adding an M to the beginning. And because I think when we talk basketball, now it's getting a bit more into the conversation where you don't just assume it's men's basketball. You also are like, oh, is it women's or men's that you are watching? Would love to see that happen with football, where it's not always assumed that, oh yeah, it's like the guys. It's you want people to ask, oh, was it like women's football or men's football that you were watching this
Yeah.
weekend? And kind of start getting to that level of parity. And I'm super excited to see football included in the 2024 Olympics in LA. I think that's going to be a massive step forward, step in the
Huge.
right direction.
Huge. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember I like a lot of my inspiration to get into sport was watching old videos of the Olympics, even sports I didn't do, watching gymnastics, watching track and field,
Break dancing.
watching figure skating. I was an equestrian in the end, but just seeing that kind of level of performance and being able to aspire to something and really seeing women excel was so cool to be able to say like, oh wow, like maybe that's something I could do.
Yeah. 100%.
Mm. So you've talked about, wanting to continue to grow the sport, maybe get into some development in the future. Anything that you're doing right now to further promote the sport and help grow those young players? And kind of what are the good changes you've seen, the momentum that's been built, and where do you think there's more work to be done?
Hmm. Okay, there was a lot there. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think as visibility continues to grow, we will get those opportunities. And the WNFC is working. Can I cuss? No.
Yeah, go for it.
WNFC is working really hard to get more eyes on our games, right? Victory Plus, and they just secured the ESPN2 streaming of the Nine Cup Championship. So like we're getting the visibility, we're getting the eyes on, getting the eyes on and the recognition for women in football, and that's huge. But like you need the sustainable support, the people showing up to the games, the people investing in it. You need you need to sell tickets, right? Ultimately, our goal is to get paid. You can't get paid if you don't have the fan base. People have to want to buy into what you're selling. So we got to just keep pushing to normalize women playing the game at a high level. And like you said, LA 28 is huge because we know Madison, we know Izzy, we know these big time flag names, and they're only continuing to bring recognition and to the sport. And I hope people recognize those names when I say them. But
Yeah.
now these are like the flag legends, like the quarterback Benita Crouch. Like these are big time women that deserve that recognition. They've been playing the game for a long time and they're damn good at it. You got to put eyes on them. And we're working in tangent a lot with the flag and USA flag because eyes on them is eyes on us. So a win for them is a win for us. Granted, we're not going to be in LA 28, but if the goal is growing women in football and getting more women to play football and getting people watching women playing football, a win for them is a win for all of us. So those pushes are going to be they're huge for the sport as a whole.
That's great. So what I'm hearing is more people getting out there, watching the sport, supporting your local teams, and helping to, boost those ticket sales and really prove that everybody watches women's sports and everyone watches
Yes.
women's football.
Yes, and then making it more accessible because it's easy to go pick up a pair of flags and play flag football. So we want to get more girls and interested in the sport, hopefully developing when they're of age to come over and play tackle. But yeah, we need, like you said, we need to sell tickets. Everybody watches women's sports. We need the push and the numbers behind it.
Nice. Cool. So transitioning a little bit, if you could give any advice to young girls who are interested in playing football, anything you would say to them, any message you'd leave them with?
Mm. Well, I'll say like a lesson I live by is go until like you hear a no. Or yeah, go until you hear a no. And 9 times out of 10, you don't get that no usually. Sometimes you sell yourself short or you don't go for that opportunity because you're expecting a no. But if you did it and you full sent and you did a good job at it, you deserve that spot. And I'd say I'm 25 now, and I got some wisdom to go, but I think I have a
Yeah.
good amount under my belt. I've always been kind of timid to take up space. Like, do I belong in that room? Do I belong in that conversation? But if you got a love for it, you got a passion for it, you're willing to work at it, go for it, and let someone tell you no, outside of yourself and your internal thoughts. Because I can just sit and overthink myself into a bad spot, but you know, a lot of times your passion will bust that door wide open, and it's like you belong here. You know,
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm also a bit of an overthinker sometimes,
a
and
lot of us are, yeah.
yeah, a lot of times we just find ourselves being like, "Oh, well, I'm not going to go after that because why would they say yes? Like they're definitely going to say no." And saying no to ourselves before we even give the chance for someone else to say yes to us. So I think that's fantastic advice and something that not just applies to football, but into any aspect of our life. I'm sure you're using it in work as well and getting,
100%,
a
yes.
seat at the right tables.
We belong in
Um,
those rooms at those tables, just like anyone else. Yep.
yeah, exactly. Final question for you before we wrap things up. At Generation Sport, we are all about kind of confidence and building confidence. What helps you to feel most confident? What do you do?
Okay, confidence. I actually just saw something on Instagram. It was like confidence comes from not knowing, not thinking you know everything, but just trusting in your own abilities. So for me, confidence comes from like my preparation. Like when I'm stepping on the field, I want to know that I put in the hours of work. Like I did what I'm supposed to do to be here right now. I had a big meeting yesterday. I was like super scared. I'm in a new position at work, and I walked in and I was like, you know what? Like I did what I was supposed to do. XYZ. And I'm here in this moment, and I've done everything I could do prior to be prepared for this moment. So I need to walk in that and just be confident. So um, surrounding yourself with people that challenge you and believe in you, and I mean confidence comes from like believing in your ability and having done the work. That's the thing, like false confidence, because
Yeah.
can't have the confidence if you haven't put in the work, right? I can't walk on the field with the swag if I know I've been sitting on my butt all week. I didn't, put the hours in or haven't been practicing and training. So, like so many of the lessons I can talk about on the field translate to my career as well. But it's important to feel confident in your own abilities and trust where you are.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the research, at least that I've read, has shown that women oftentimes do the work outside. They do the preparation, and they still don't feel like it's enough. And so, just really leaning into that. If you've done the work, like you're ready, and you can take that confidence with you. Because pretty sure I can guarantee you that there are a lot of other people in those rooms and conversations that haven't done the work.
Yes.
And so when you've done it, you kind of sit with that and know that you've done everything you can to be prepared, and you deserve to be there, and you belong there.
Yes, that's huge. That's huge. And that's why I love what you guys are doing, right?
Thank
Because
you.
yeah, confidence goes a long way. And WNFC, I'll speak to the league again because they're doing some really cool stuff. They got a Dove partnership, and it's the body
Mm,
confidence, right? Body positivity. It's like my body doesn't look like hers, but this is my body, and look what it can do for me. That's huge. Just being confident in your abilities, what you have, and I mean the gifts you were given.
I love that. Yeah, that's the kind of like keep her confident movement
Yep.
with Dove, right? That's super cool. And to be able to just expand what an athletic body looks like,
Yes.
and in terms of what's shown in the media, what people, really changing what people's beliefs are, and focusing more on what you can do, right? Not how you look necessarily, because how you look will is really powering what your athletic capabilities are. Every sport has different requirements. There's no one athletic body, and I love that there's now been much more of a movement to really own up to that, and admit that we've, as a society, kind of created some vision of what a perfect athlete might look like, and it's so far from the reality of what athletic of all the different shapes and sizes athletic bodies come in. So I love that they're doing that. And I saw you were involved in some events with that partnership too, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. They came out and did a girls flag football camp in New Orleans on Super Bowl weekend. So just like that representation was pretty cool to be there for that launch.
That's super cool. Amazing. Anything else you want to share, talk about that we haven't covered?
I think we did it all.
Okay, cool. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being our inaugural guest on Generation Unfiltered, Nat. This has been a fantastic conversation. I'm really excited. Promising I'm going to go and watch more women's football after this and show up and support the sport. And I'm asking all of our followers to do the same and help grow this sport that these women are pouring their heart and souls into and doing all the groundwork to build a strong community around. I'm so excited for the momentum that's coming, and I can't wait to see where you all take this.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We've made it a lot easier. We stream for free now, so anyone can watch the games. They stream live. So
Nice. Remind me what platforms?
Victory Plus, there's a WNFC hub, and all of the games stream for free. Stream for free. You don't even need an account to watch. You can watch as a guest. So it's really easy.
Fantastic. Okay,
Eliminated those
Victory Plus.
barriers, right? Just getting people watching.